What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, May 5th, 2023. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Phil, it's a bad day here in the Kenny household. I guess it's a half good day. Our longest foster, Copper, finally found his forever home. He's getting adopted today. It's emotional for us because we've had him for almost 4 months, but we found the perfect family for him, so I'm going to go back and listen to this episode to distract me from the sadness I am ensuing and feeling right now.
A little different than your last foster. Not that you loved them any less, but your last foster I feel like you also had for quite a bit of time, but there was a little bit of a different feeling toward the end of when it got adopted, correct?
Venny? Yeah. Venny was a special boy. We had a special relationship, but yeah, I love all the fosters in different ways, but I feel like the ones that you have the longest have a special place in your heart. I know I'm getting emotional, but it stinks. It stinks for us, but at least he's not in the bad situation he was before, so I'll put it that way. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he finally found a good home, and if I got to go through a day of sadness for him to be happy the rest of his life, I'll do it. See, I'm a good person, Phil. I have good qualities in myself.
You what's the longest foster you've had?
Him. It will be 3 months and 3 weeks, I think it is.
How long was Benny?
Benny was just about 3 months.
So similar-ish? Or?
Yeah, similar-ish. We just had him for 3 weeks longer, I think. Well, but now it's time for a little bit of a break. Yeah. Took him a while, but I think we found the perfect place for him. So, if you want to console me, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com and check for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Phil, let's start with the Buffalo Bisons, and I don't like it whatsoever. This is not putting me in a happy mood. Tuesday, they lost 9-8, and then Wednesday was rained out. Surprise, surprise, spring, worst season in the world. Rained out, doubleheader on Saturday. Game 1 of Thursday, 7-inning game. They lost 4-1. Not the best start to a 7-game series you had hoped for.
Yeah, no. I mean, 9-8 is, again, in a way-ish what we're looking for as far as the offense still being there. Pitching, we assume we'll get it together, more likely than the hitting, at least consistently throughout the year. If right now the team, if we gave up on the first half, or if we had one goal of the first half of the season and we kind of give up on, trying to win the first half, and you just have okay, let's set ourselves up for a good second half. What is the one thing we really want to accomplish in the first half? I feel like it'd be consistent offense more than anything, because I think they have the pitching staff to do it. I think they have the pitchers to do it once they kind of settle in a little bit more, but the offense is what we missed all of last year. So I think if that can be consistent throughout the first half, or at least from here on, or more consistent than not, I think if you had one goal for the first half of the season to be that. So seeing them lose 9-8 is a bummer as far as pitching goes, but the 8 looks really good, and then losing 4-1 is not much of what you're looking for. I mean, the 4, not terrible, but the 1, not great, and the 4 is not great when it's only in 7 innings.
Yeah, I mean, I could start with the Thursday one, because that one's going to be really quick. The only run they scored, Horwitz was on base, or at the plate. He walked when the bases were loaded, and that was literally the only run they came across. Thompson, it's a bit of a letdown after the nice start he had last time. We were hoping he was going to be able to put 2 together, and he didn't, and he only got through. He was, once again, we got to start a tracker here, Phil. Will Thompson, before the midway through the season, get to 6 innings pitched? So far, hasn't done it yet. I mean, 3 earned runs, not ideal. And then Thornton comes in. Again, this team has had an issue with giving up the long ball. He gives up 1 earned run on the solo shot. But move over to Tuesday's game. It kept popping up on my app. And I went, okay, Bisons had the lead. And then they gave it up. And then, Worcester, I'm going to get the name right eventually, Phil. Worcester just kept scoring. And it was over and over and over. And it wasn't one of those times where it was just, one pitcher was getting destroyed. It was White, Fraze, and Hatch all got killed in 5 2/3 of this combined for 5 2/3 of an inning, 9 earned runs, 6 walks, and a home run. Those walks are killing him. The long ball is killing him. Luplow, which I do love his name, he hit the grand slam. Bernard went 2 for 2 with a stolen base. Schneider had another home run. He's on fire. 8 of the 9 hitters reached base with a hit. They only struck out 4 times. The batters did their job. It's just the pitchers let them down once again.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the walks, again, just absolutely killing him. I mean, 5 innings, 6 walks. You can't be walking one person an inning. That's just a very bad ratio. I mean, I don't know exactly what a great ratio is in baseball, but not that. Yeah, not 1 for 1. That's for sure. I mean, you shouldn't be walking one batter per inning. That's just not how you're going to win games, and that's how you give up 9 runs. And I mean, allowing a free pass, allowing a free base runner, it changes everything, like the entire approach of a pitcher. Some, I feel like it's pretty rare, but some of them do enjoy pitching from the stretch or, pitching when there's somebody on base. But for the most part, it's a very different animal when you have somebody on base versus how you pitch normally from the full windup. So the second you allow that walk in that inning, you're changing your entire strategy to that whole inning, and then it's just a ripple effect from there. So getting those walks down is absolutely number one. Again, we just kind of talked about one goal for the entire team, one goal for the pitching staff. Stop the walks for the, remainder of the first half of the season. I know we're barely in May, so it's not even close to the end of the first half or anything like that. But I think just the 2 things that we want to look for moving forward, less walks from the pitchers and consistent offense from the hitters.
Yeah, I think we can go over some of the players now. Lopez, he's 2 for 7 this series so far. Horwitz, 2 for 7. Schneider's 1 for 5. He's got 2 walks, a stolen base, a home run, an RBI, 2 runs. He's really picked it up in the last 2 series. When he came up towards the end of the season last year with like the Bargers and some of the other players that were coming up late and got 2 weeks into the season, or 2 weeks left of the season, they got some playing time. He's come on strong, and I think that's a good thing considering Barger's been out. You needed somebody to step up. It seems like Horwitz stepped up big time last series. It's kind of continued into this series, and now you have Schneider coming up big in this series. He was big last series. He's up to 4 home runs, I think it is. I think he's the lead or the team leader in home runs. So that's what we've been hoping for, a bit more long ball. That's what we expected to come into this one, and hopefully with the warmer weather that's impending, hopefully this is the weather segment, we will see more of the balls getting crushed out of the park, hopefully, because this small ball is not my ideal type of baseball. I know you love your small ball, but I hate it. I want homers.
Yeah, as much as I do enjoy an overall small ball alert that we haven't done in quite a long time, more than anything, yeah, I'm all about the home runs, and this team last year struggled mightily in the home run department. This year, it's good to see them getting going. We'll have to see, kind of take watch as to how many they hit all of last year and when they hopefully cross that sooner than later this season, hopefully much sooner than later. I mean, I think they're already well on their way. I don't know what their pace was at the beginning of last year compared to right now, but it's got to be at, 2, 3, 4 times because they had 2 all year pretty much. So overall, good to see. I mean, like you said, some players are definitely stepping up. Horwitz and his ability to walk is just ridiculous. I mean, 2 for 7 doesn't look amazing. Throw 2 walks in there, you're looking at 4 for 9 as far as a on base percentage, and that's pretty dang good. So I don't know how he continues to walk. I don't know what the walk leader in the entire AAA is. He's got to be up there though. He just walks like a maniac. But some of these other players, I mean, even Lopez going 2 for 7 is not the worst. It's not great, but 1 for 3-ish, 1 for 3.5, not terrible. So for him, I think we'll take it. And then Eden seems to also be consistently doing a little bit better. I mean, that last series, was it him that went 6 for 6?
Or that was Tally, I believe.
Who's is center fielder Eden, right? Am I wrong?
Center fielder is Eden, yep.
Yeah, I thought he's
come on strong.
Yeah, I would say he did really well last game. I think he was more someone that I looked up as a surprise that he's doing very well, even though he's quite quiet. But I mean, 2 for 4 again with an RBI and a stolen base. I think he's been a quietly consistent player that we don't talk enough about.
So I did look up the stats. Horwitz is 12th in the International League with walks with 20, but 1 more walk, he's up to 8th place. 2 more walks, he's up to 4th place. First place is Nico Goodrum from Worcester. Worcester, Phil. Worcester. He's got 27 walks, but God, the one guy's got 21 walks, 44 strikeouts. That's insane. Like, what is going on there? Why are you striking out so much, but you're walking so much? But yeah, he's up towards the league lead as well. So there's your answer for you, Phil.
You love the that almost sounded like a little bit of milestone talk.
Oh, almost.
Creeping
but
in there.
Wasn't, so
if he gets one more walk, he'll be at 8th. 2 more walks, he'll be 4th all time for the Buffalo.
I'm saving that for the end of the show. There's a lot. I know you're interested in my.
You got some playoff milestones coming up.
I do. There's a lot of them. So series, they're 0-2 to start. 9 runs for, 13 runs against. Pick it up. You have 5 games left in this series. 1 more on this Thursday night. They were recording game 2. It hasn't started yet, but that's coming up. So BSC update. We only got 1 team left, Phil, and you really got to put some walloping on me. You got to hope for some long balls for all of your guys because the lead is still over 300. I'm up 2473.05 to 21.67.52. You scored 7. I scored 8.5. So, Phil, any changes to your team that has Lopez, Horowitz, Brantley, Zulu, and Pearson, and I have Barger, Bernard, Clement, Lawrence, and Junger.
Yeah, for funsies, sure. We'll mix it up. I feel like there's a mystery move out there that you're thinking of over there. But
if it helps, I'm not doing anything. So
yeah, no, I will. I do like him quite a bit, and I think he's still doing well, but I got to mix something up, and it's not going to be Lopez, even though I still don't love what he's doing. But he means
he's
too
dropping
much.
Horowitz.
No, that would be ridiculous. Brantley for Eden. We're going to do a little swap skis. Eden's played, I think, in pretty much every game and is consistent like we just talked about. And Brantley, while doing pretty well overall, actually one of the better players on the team in general, not playing quite as consistently as Eden. So I don't think it'll make a massive dent in anything I do, but we're going to make a small little switch there.
I'm fine with that. I appreciate Eden getting some love. He
deserves it.
I believe when me and Brooke were down in Florida visiting my parents, and we went to the spring training game between the Blue Jays, which were actually the Bisons, because none of the Blue Jays played. None of them travel. They're too good to travel 40 minutes up the coast versus Atlanta, and they got absolutely crushed. I think Cam Eden was playing, and I think he was playing center field. I can't be sure of that, but I'm pretty sure the name sounds familiar. So on our next show, we will hopefully cover the next 5 games. Hopefully no more rainouts. We're getting at least 1 more in this Thursday night. Then they got 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, and 1 Sunday. So fingers crossed we got some games to talk about. But we'll move on to the Buffalo Bandits here. Bill, do you know what time it is?
It's playoff time, I believe.
It is playoff time.
The march to May. We've officially marched, and we made it to May. It is May. Do you realize that's May?
It's not gonna be May. It's May.
Dang it!
I had to throw it in there.
You did.
I had to throw it in there.
You did.
It's also Cinco de Mayo, so I'm eating a lot of chips and salsa today.
I was gonna say, while we're recording, it is May the 4th be with you, followed by Cinco de Mayo with nachos and margaritas, and it's going to be May. So the beginning of May, it really hits hard. We got May the 4th, May the 5th, and Justin Timberlake saying it's May in general. So a lot going on early in May.
So Saturday night, 7 p.m. It is 7 p.m. this time, not the 7:30 that we're used to, versus Rochester. Win or go home. And that'll be a short trip for the Bandits if they lose because they're already home. But games so far this year, they've went 1-1 in this series so far. January 20th, 2023, at Rochester, they lost 15-12. Rochester had a 10-4, they outscored the Bandits 10-4 in the second half. They were outshot 61-56. Buffalo, and this Phil, we didn't notice this one, and I found it up when I was looking up this. Max Adler, 24-7. So he did have a monster week versus Rochester the first time they faced them. Buffalo was 2-for-4 on the power play. Rochester was 2-for-5. And then Buffalo got even when they came home. February 4th, they won 13-10, 57 shots each. Buffalo was 15 of 27, so 15-12 for faceoffs. 2-3 on the power play for Rochester, 1-for-1 on the power play for Buffalo. I don't know how many games. I'm going to have to look this up. It's like 3 or 4 games this year that Buffalo has only gotten 1 penalty called for them. And, Yeah, good for them. Cashing in on the only one they were awarded, but very vastly different games, and hopefully this means that if the pattern continues and you only win at home, that's a good sign for Buffalo.
Yeah, this one, I'm very 50-50 as far as how I want to feel about Rochester coming into this game. So, I mean, part of me wants to throw out anything they did in the season and say it's playoff time, anything can happen, it's a one-and-done game, it is what it is, it's not the same team. But at the same time, this is a team that started 6-0, and in their last 6, they are 1-5, losing a few of those games to terrible teams. Their defense and Hartley are limping into the playoffs right now. In their last 7 games, they've given up an average of 13 goals per game. 5 of those 7 games were against teams with records of under 500. They are not doing well headed into playoffs right now. But on the flip side, during the season, like you just mentioned, Hartley allowed 12 goals in their first meeting, making 44 saves, and second time he allowed 13 goals, made 42 saves. So he's been very consistent as far as what he's done against the Bandits, right around 43 saves and 12.5, 13 goals, somewhere around there. So for me, with the way Rochester is just not playing at a very high level right now going into playoffs, they just lost to Philly. I believe part of their 1-5 record, they played Philly 3 times to end the season, and then they had an Albany, they had a Vegas. They just are not playing very tough teams, and they're playing bad. So we kind of mentioned this in pre-last game of the season, that of all the teams headed into the East, we wanted Rochester more than anybody, and I think with the way they're playing right now, it's just not good. But at the same time, it's playoffs. They can absolutely put it together, find a way, and make the game a little bit closer than we'd love. But as far as just instant thoughts on Rochester, I don't think they're entering on a high note, and I could easily see the Bandits, with the way the Bandits are kind of rolling into the playoffs on a high note, putting up 13, 14, 15 goals. And if you do that, I don't think Rochester keeps up.
Yeah, I mean, between Rochester, Halifax, and Philly was probably the other 3 options Georgia. Throw Georgia in there. Georgia was the hot team I didn't want to face whatsoever. Thank God they lost to Halifax because, but Rochester was the one out of the 3 or 4 that I would have wanted, just based on, they've never been there. They've never been in this race. The team that used to be Rochester is now in Halifax. So this Rochester team has never really been through a playoff race and into the playoffs. So I'd rather have that team, because Hartley, you can get to Hartley, you can shake him. I don't think their defense is super talented. They have individual pieces that are very good, but I don't think collectively they're the best, near the top in defense at all. But they do have playmakers up top, and I think when I was on with the Daily Dive, I said that Rochester has a lot of B pieces, like number 2 pieces. They don't have a go-to guy. As much as Connor Fields is a great guy and a great player on the field, I don't think he can physically take over a game like a Dane Smith can, like a Josh Byrne can, like a Tom Schreiber can, like a Mitch Jones can. I just don't think he has that in him. I think he is a great piece that is playing off of other pieces that anybody around the field can score. And I think he's taking advantage of being the number 1 producer on that team. But we saw last year where he's the number 2 or 3 guy, and sometimes even the 4 guy, and he can't capitalize on it. But just going over some of the stats in the 2 games, McKay, when he was playing forward, he got some good numbers, 2, 4, and 6, 17 loose balls, caused turnover. Nick Weiss has got 8 caused turnovers, 4 and 4 in both those games. Byrne, he had a 4, 4, and 8 game, and he didn't play in game 2. So he's only seen this team once. Priolo's got 20 loose balls, 2 caused turnovers. Dane Smith, 8, 7, 15. Vince has made 46 saves and 47 saves. And then for the Rochester Nighthawks, Fields does have 15 points. He's 6'9" for 15, 19 loose balls. He had 147 loose balls this year. It was unbelievable. But he's taken 27 shots. Catoni, 4, 7, 11. He's taken 21 shots. Smith, 8, 7, and 15. I think he is the X factor, Phil. I am terrified of Smith on the other side. Ryan Smith, he's the one that's terrifying me. He's got 26 shots. And then Hogarth took 19 shots. So it's the majority of those 4 guys that are taking the big shots and, capitalizing on that. The biggest thing Rochester has going for them, and, you and I have both said that loose balls are not a huge indicator of talent. A lot of teams walk out the door with 20 more loose balls in their team and they get blown off. So it doesn't really matter. But secondary opportunities for this team is what you want to try to avoid. So I think loose balls might play a bigger role in this game than in previous games and more than what you and I might think.
Yeah, the biggest number between the two teams that really pops out to me is exactly what you kind of mentioned, which is Vince with 46 saves and 47 saves between the two games. And if you're having that many saves, that means you're allowing that many more shots to even be put on. So that's one thing I'd like to see that's going to be interesting, and loose balls is a big part of that, like you just mentioned. So I think it's going to be interesting for the Bandits defense to see if they can get some more loose balls and just in general limit the shots. I think it's something Rochester just likes to do is shoot from all over the place. Like you said, they don't have that true alpha on their team. I know, like we just said, Fields is obviously good. He had plenty of points this year. He had a really good season, but I don't think he's your automatic feed it through Dane Smith kind of type player. So I think they just like to feed it around a lot more than some of these other teams do. So because of that, I think they just whip it from pretty much everywhere and, hope some go in and some obviously do. So I think it'll be interesting to see if the Bandits defense can play very physical, but also limit shots. And I am worried about Smith. He is that bigger bodied forward that has given fits to the Bandits in general, especially come playoffs when things get a little bit more physical. But I think the Bandits did a good job this offseason kind of trying to counteract that. I'm interested to see how Bomberry does and if any of the Robinsons are ever going to play again in a Buffalo uniform.
That was my one question. I know they put Justin Robinson on the IR before the Albany game, and they brought up Carter McKenzie. My question is, do you think they actually did that for
rest him?
Protection? Or do you think that he re-injured himself? I was kind of more leaning towards the fact that they did that to protect him in a game where, hey, we got Carter McKenzie, bring him up. This is Albany. We're not super terrified of their offense. Give Justin Robinson that extra rest because he had just played back-to-back weeks off that terrible injury that he had for a year. That's where I'm kind of leaning. I don't know where you side with that.
I can see it going either way with the way this season's gone so far. I mean, we saw Brandon run back on the field after injuring himself and then is gone the rest of the entire season. So with the way the Bandits are going and with the way their injuries are very confusing, I mean, even Nanakoke, I know it was a concussion, so it's something that obviously you can't physically see. But even after that game when he got injured, seeing him, down at the boards and smiling and happy, and then you don't see him for, 5, 6, 7 weeks. I think the Bandits' injuries have just been all over the place with how they've gone, so I'm not even going to attempt to predict or understand what they're doing or what is happening with these players, but hopefully I could 100% understand if they wanted to rest him, especially, like you said, in a game that didn't really matter. He's coming off that injury. You got in that one really intense game action, playoff-like atmosphere. He can handle it. He's back. And then just, let him rest, don't want to re-injure anything. So I'm hoping that's the way it went. But at the same time, with the way the season's gone, if he told me he re-injured himself, I'd be like, all right, well, that is what it is.
Yeah, you're not even phased anymore. It's just like, yeah, that fits.
Oh, he got injured? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but I broke this down similar to what I did for the Toronto series because you saw 2 games prior. They faced Toronto for the 3rd time. Some of these numbers might be a bit you might be able to read more into it than previous times where you're just facing a team once. At least now you have a bigger sample size. First half, I didn't really see much. It was very similar. First quarter, Rochester scored 3, Buffalo scored 4. Second quarter, Rochester 7, Buffalo 8. So for the first half, Buffalo's outscored Rochester 12-10. Now these next 2 quarters are where you're going to see a bit of a difference. Third quarter, which has been Buffalo's best quarter all year long. I mean, it's been that way the whole season. They've had some hiccups along the way, but for the majority of the time, they've outscored their opponents quite well. And no difference here, third quarter. Buffalo outscored Rochester in those 2 games 10-6. Fourth quarter, though, and this is a bit scary for me, and I know with the second game, Buffalo really didn't have to put on too much of a threat because they were up by so much. It was more just withstanding what Rochester was throwing at them. But Rochester in the fourth quarter has outscored them 9-3 in those 2 games. Second half goes to Rochester 15-13. So if you do the math, which I did, total so far 25-25. Phil, the fourth quarter is a little scary to me. I will admit it. It seems like, let me pull up the numbers really quick here because I think if I remember correctly, the fourth quarter has not been very friendly to the Buffalo Bandits yet. Buffalo scored 44 goals total in the 18 games so far this season. Well, in the regular season. The opponents have scored 41. And yes, they have the edge, but considering how well they are, they got a 23 goal differential in the third quarter and then just 3 in the fourth. It seems like this team doesn't really, besides the Albany game last week, and I guess that's a good thing because it came right at the end of the season, they haven't really put their foot on the opponent's throat, pressed down, and just said, you're not getting up. And it's a bit scary, and we always say it, in a one-and-done series, anything can happen, and I'm a little nervous when that fourth quarter happens. I'm going to be shaking in my chair, and producer Pat's going to think I'm going to need help.
You know, you try to look up the Bandit schedule to just double-check a stat you're trying to throw out there, and we're already on the playoffs, and I can't go back to the regular season. Apparently, we've completely moved on from that. But I believe, I don't know the exact number because I forgot, and I probably should have pulled up our own notes from this last game. But against Toronto, they had a big fourth quarter as well, right?
The most recent one?
Yeah, the one where they...
Let me pull it up right now.
Needed to win. I believe they had a big fourth quarter to take it.
I just got a new router, so this should go quick. Yeah, Buffalo outscored Toronto 4-2 in the fourth quarter.
It's not massive, but against Toronto, who was notoriously good at beating Buffalo in the fourth quarter, you saw a little bit of a shift, something that you absolutely needed to happen because you really needed to win that game. But good to see that in exactly what you're just saying, put your foot on the opponent's throat in a game that you absolutely need to win. Meant everything to both teams going at it extremely well. It's a very good team in Toronto. You were able to take over in the fourth and pull away and win. I know they only won by 1, but you needed that 4-2 fourth quarter to truly get that victory. So I think that's a good sign, as well as that Albany game. I mean, so here's the big question. I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, and same thing here. We haven't seen Rochester in a long time. What do you take as far as how a team performed at the end of the season and how they're rolling into playoffs? Like, how much stake do you take into that? Like, Buffalo is rolling right now compared to where they were. I mean, they squeaked out that New York victory in overtime, but they needed to win it. Finally got your offense healthy. You beat Toronto, put them aside for a moment, absolutely crushed Albany, which you absolutely needed to do to get the offense rolling. The team's just going up and up and up and up right now, whereas, Rochester 1-5 in the last 6, limping into playoffs, not looking good, not looking strong, losing to teams that they should absolutely be beating if they're considered a really good team. How much do you take in all of that, I guess, is the big question.
So I know in all sports, they always say that you want to hit your stride at the right time. And I like to say that I'm the type of person that pushes back against those sports norms, would you call them? Like, not social norms, but sports norms, I guess.
I like it.
I don't like those kind of things, like momentum. I don't really believe in momentum. All that kind of stuff. I tend not to believe it. But this is kind of the things that we've been saying leading up to it. So I kind of contradicting myself, where I said I wanted to see the offense do this so they could roll into the playoffs. So in this type of thing, I think them gaining that confidence in the Albany game where they put up 16 goals, I think that's what you want. I mean, if they were coming in having scored, beating Albany 11-10, I'd be feeling much different about the offense rather than they put up 11 versus Toronto. They put up 11 versus New York. They put up 11 against Albany. You're going, okay, when are they going to put up a decent amount of goals? And 11's a good number. It really is.
Thank you.
But in lacrosse, when it's do or die, it's not the best number to be putting up. You want to be putting up 13, 14, 15 goals. So I think with the way both of these teams are going, where Buffalo knows when they got to get hot. This is the third straight season being the number 1 seed overall in the playoffs in finished seasons. I still hate having to say that. But I think they know what they need to be doing and where they need to be as a team rolling into the playoffs. Like I said in the beginning of the segment, I don't think Rochester really knows what to do in the playoffs because most of these... Sure, Connor Fields has been through a playoff race before. Matt Gilray's been through a playoff race before. That's 2 players. How many more of these players have actually been through a playoff race like this? You got a young Ryan Hartley. He's going to be playing in front of 17, maybe 18,000 fans. I don't even know if it's going to get that high because apparently they haven't sold the N300 yet. They haven't even opened it up because they haven't sold the rest of the bowl yet. But I'm I don't know how they're going to react. And sometimes going in like this, you're the 4th seed. You've been stumbling through the end of the regular season. You barely snuck into the playoffs. You clinched in week, 22, I think it was, with the Philly loss. But you're not, you read off all the numbers. They're 1-5 in their last 6 games, something like that. It's just, I think you want to be in the position of the Bandits. But when you look at it again, I'm going to contradict myself again. Rochester has nothing to lose. Those are the worst teams to play against because you're literally expected to lose. If you win, you're going to shock the world. If you lose, everybody was expecting it. Buffalo has all the pressure to win at home versus Rochester, your rival, your through-ray rival. You can't lose this game. So as much as you want to read into momentum and carrying into the playoffs and being hot when you are, I'm happy the Buffalo Bandits are where they are on their offensive end, but facing a team that literally has nothing to lose in a 1-game series, I'm terrified to be sitting there in the 4th quarter if the game's 8-8, and I'm going to be sitting there and just pacing back and forth in my chair in a fetal position, just asking to please let this be over quick.
And hopefully we won't have to deal with that at all.
Yeah, well, that never happens. Have you watched this season so far, Phil? I'm going to die of a heart attack. It's going to happen this playoffs if every game is within 1 goal towards the end of the game.
Except this last one. They're on the right path.
I wasn't in it was an away game, Phil. There was a difference. It's been every home game.
That's fair. And
but
too many overtime.
Too many. I almost fell down the stairs during the Philly game. It's just, the stairs are right in front of me, Phil. They're literally right there. My foot was slipping, but we'll go over more stats here. Shots, Rochester, 118 shots compared to 113 for Buffalo, so not a huge difference there. Power plays, Rochester's gotten 3 more power play opportunities. Rochester's 4 for 8, Buffalo's 3 for 5, so Buffalo has a better percentage there. And then faceoffs, definitely advantage to Max Adler, 39-19. So I think this is going to be a big Max Adler game just because you see how many secondary chances that Rochester can get picking up the loose balls with their offense with, 140 some odd loose balls. I'm looking at 142 loose balls for counterfields. A lot of these forwards can pick up the loose balls and get secondary opportunities. So if you can capitalize in the faceoff dot and Max Adler winning it back to the offense, if he puts up another 20 win spot in this game, I'm feeling very good for this offense who hopefully can carry that 16 goals into the playoffs and just steamroll Rochester. Please, for the love of God, steamroll them.
Yeah, I don't know too much more to add other than the fact that, once again, I'm trying to find a stat, and the NLL website also just letting me down. They, like, all season we've been just looking for stats or anything and nothing. The main thing I was trying to look up that I won't be able to was just, I was trying to quickly find how many power plays were really allowed in the Toronto series last year, the 3 games that got really insane. Or 2 games, sorry. Forgot they went in 2. The 2 games that got really insane, how many power plays were actually allowed. Because, like you said, 4 for 8 for Rochester. 50% on the power play is really good for them. I know Buffalo 3 for 5, also very good. But something that you want to limit would be 4 for 8. That's not great as far as penalty kill goes. So that's something to absolutely keep an eye out for. And the difference is, again, it's playoffs. How much are the refs going to allow because it's playoffs and just let things go and be a little bit more physical? And I wish I could look up last year's playoff series, but I can't see how many penalties were actually called. But I think that's going to be one of the interesting aspects. 50% for Rochester is pretty solid on the power play. Buffalo's penalty kill needs to get a little bit better in that aspect, but are there going to be 8 penalties called in this game? No. Hopefully it's closer to 2 or 3, and then if you're allowing only 1 of the 2 or 3 or 0, you should be in good shape.
I'm going to try to find this for you, Phil, really quick before I...
Yeah, I was trying some other things, but...
So I'm thinking instead of using the NLL website, I'm going to use that NLL stats.
Okay.
That are good for this team matchups. Let's see here. Pick a team, Buffalo Bandits. We're doing this on the fly here, but the Toronto Rock, that's what we're looking for here. Here we go. And scroll to the very bottom. Got it. Okay. What are you looking for?
We're stalling. How many power plays were in the playoff games against Toronto?
Okay, that was not a power play game or a playoff game.
I guess.
Give me the playoff numbers, baby. Oh, no. I don't think it's going to do it for me, Phil.
Dang it.
I think this is just a regular season. Oh, wait. Playoff. Wait, nope. It's not going to do it for me, Phil.
All right, well.
It's only got the regular seasons.
I'll, hopefully we can find it after the podcast and post it somewhere. Because I am very interested to see how many were actually called in those 2 games, and even maybe the one before it. If we can find any of this information, that'd be great. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can find that, because I'd like to know.
Yeah, if we find it, we'll tweet it out. But we'll go over some players here for the forwards. We don't have to dive in this too much because we went over these players twice already. But lefties, Holden Cattoni, he's the one that you're going to watch out for because he's the second fiddle to Connor Fields, who's also up there, 52 goals, 60 assists, 112 points. Yes, I know that Bandit Land, and there's some of them that are still mad that they let him go in the expansion draft. We went over that multiple times why he went. He would not have had this season here. He probably would have had a pretty decent season because Kluch was out for a while. Brendan Robinson's been out for a while. Josh Byrne's been out for a while. He's a lefty, so he would have turned out pretty well over there. It would have been nice to have him. But that's not the way the world works. Life's unfair. Get used to it. This is real life. Suck it up, Buttercup. Turner Evans is the third fiddle over on the left side. And then for the righties, Thomas Hogarth, another former Bandit. Curtis Knight, he is the second fiddle to the Ryan Smith. But what I forgot to mention earlier, Ryan Smith got put on the IR last week. I think this might just be him, similar to what we were talking about with Justin Robinson. He might have just been nicked up. The game didn't mean much between the third or fourth seed. They probably valued Ryan Smith coming in more than the third seed over the fourth seed because you're either facing Buffalo or the Toronto Rock. Either team's going to stink to play against. So you'd rather him take that extra week to get healthy. I would, if I was a betting man, which I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would bet he's going to be playing in this game, and he is the second go-to guy for me on this offense. 33 goals, 42 assists, 75 points, and he's got 20 points on the power play. Stay out of the box, Buffalo. No stupid penalties. I'm talking to you, Bryce Sweeting. Play smart, buddy. Please play smart. I love your physicality out there. I love that. I don't think we've lost a game with him in the lineup. Maybe one or two. I know we've lost both games that he's been out of the lineup at least. But just no like obvious checking from behind, cross checks in the back. Yeah, you got to stay out of the box versus this Rochester team who's pretty lethal on the power play.
Is that another stat we don't have this year?
Probably, yeah. I haven't found it anywhere.
I like that articles and things pull these things up, but they're not.
They track them themselves.
I know. It's just they're not. I was just gonna say they're just not public knowledge, so we don't have access to any of these stats. And we did find a cool one the other day in an article I was reading on IL
You found
Indoor.
That one, Phil. Don't give me credit. You found that one.
Okay, I found a cool one the other day under IL Indoor. I think it was the Impact Player of the Year. They were going over the nominees. I think Withers is probably going to get it. He's pretty cool. But Brandon Robinson was in there because he was in their mid-season potential player to get that. And I believe at the time he was number 2 in the league with 10 pick assists. And I think the next highest was Hogarth, if I'm remembering correctly, with 12 at that time when they wrote the article. And that was before Brandon Robinson got injured. But pick assists is a really cool stat that I hope somehow, some way, if the NLL ever gets stats again, that they add that one in there as well. Because that's a really interesting one. And I mean, how many times do you and I talk about McCulley, Nanakoke, all these players that are really physical, doing things that don't really show up on the stat sheet? And pick assist is exactly it. It's those pick and rolls. It's those getting the pick so Josh Byrne can have a clear lane to the, clear shot at the net without any interference or anyone up in his face. And to see that they have a potential stat for that, and, Brandon Robinson being at the very top of that was the exact type of impact player we were talking about, and why it was so big to lose him and what he was able to do for the offense and why it looked different with him out there. And I know plenty of other injuries followed him after that, but my goodness, did the offense look very different without him in it. But pick assist is just a very interesting and fun stat that I hope the NLL themselves adds and starts tracking, because it's a cool one. But as far as Rochester goes, like you mentioned, they have just a very spread out offense. Obviously Fields is their go-to guy, but again, we don't believe, and he might grow into one, but I don't think either of us believe he's truly a Dane Smith or even a Josh Byrne type take over an entire game player. But Katoni, also very good. Like you mentioned, Hogarth is the guy who's kind of their dirty player, finds ways to get loose balls, score from weird angles, be that physical presence, that kind of Brandon Robinson-esque guy who also scores a decent amount. Curtis Knight and then Smith also their other big players. So they have a decent offense for sure. It's not a bad offense. It's pretty spread out. They don't really have that guy. But like you said, I think the defense, especially when it gets a little more physical, and this season, this offseason will, and I think what the Bandits have been able to do on defense, especially if they get some of the Robinsons, maybe both, maybe one, any Robinson back in the lineup, I think they're going to be looking pretty solid on defense. So I think it'll be tough for Rochester, especially in a very physical game. I mean, I feel like last year, these types of games scared me a little bit more because the Bandits just, even though they're a very physical team, seemed to kind of wither away a little bit when it got physical. But this kind of game against a weaker opponent, especially the way Rochester's coming into this, I think that the advantage goes to Vince in the defense over the Rochester offense.
So I got 3 things, Phil.
Thrice.
One, I thought of a nickname for Thomas Hogarth.
Okay.
He just called him Aldi because he's the Aldi's version of Tohoka Nanacoke. Just tossing that one out there. 2, the Brandon Robinson pick assist. It makes us look like absolute geniuses because we were calling the Brandon Robinson injury a major injury that nobody's talking about, and then it finally caught on like 2 or 3 weeks after we said it. And we're not going to get credit for it because we're a smaller podcast, but we said it before everybody else, so suck it.
Give ourselves
and then the third one, they did add block shots or soakers to the stats to kind of incorporate some of those players that might not get the cause turnovers or might not get the loose balls on the defensive end that also you could use when it comes time to negotiate. Like, hey, I led the league in block shots. Hey, I led the league in this. If they start tracking the pick assists, I mean, that's another number. I know that might be more difficult to track, but
someone's doing it.
They stink at tracking loose balls. They stink at tracking block shots. They stink at just having a normal stats website where you have to have secondary sources to track this stuff. So, just pick up the pace. I know you switch stat providers, so maybe in the offseason they can be better. And I don't know what I'm going to do, Phil. I think 0. I'm going to, before the season ends, I'm just going to screenshot every single stat from this year because it seems like as soon as the new year starts, all previous year stats disappear. Don't know why. It's 3 straight seasons it's happened. But I'm just going to do that. But we'll move on to the transition to defense. Matt Gilroy, another guy that stinks that is playing with Rochester right now. He's got 27 points, 154 loose balls, 26 caused turnovers, 11 blocks. He's just a freak of nature back there. Rylan Reese, he is also a freak back there. He's only played in 16 games, but he's got 16 points, 26 caused turnovers. Mitch Ogilvie, he's got 116 loose balls, 21 caused turnovers, 13 blocks. So like I said, not a ton of great collective defense back there, but you have a ton of individual pieces. Kind of like the forward group. You don't have a dominant piece, but you have a bunch of number 2s on the other team. Tyler Hall, he's got 86 loose balls. He is one of 2 face-off guys. I think it'll be Joe Post more, because unless they got to make room they might not have him active on this game day just because he would probably get crushed by Max Adler anyway. So might as well just toss out Tyler Halls, who's going to lose. But Halls he's got 38%. Post is 48%. But if Ryan Smith does come back, they have to make room. I would assume Joe Post is the one that comes out, and he's their main face-off guy. He's their Fogo. But if he's not playing, it'll be Tyler Halls versus Max Adler.
Yeah, I think Adler definitely has the advantage here, and this is not a knock at him by any means, but it's something we just don't get the chance to say too often. I think this year...
It's a small part of the game.
Well, not only that, but this year I think it's definitely gone up for us last year he came in a little bit into the season and then went through a gauntlet of just the best in the entire league and then had like one easy game and had to go through them all over again. So this year it's been definitely more in his favor, but still in the East, there's just some of the best that are out there in general that he has to keep going against. So just, we don't often get to say that he has the advantage in faceoff, especially because, again, he's only been in box lacrosse for almost one complete season. I know if you count last year and this year, it's one complete season, but I guess we'll give him a season and a half-ish. So he's still learning the game. He's still getting new to it. I think he's doing much better this year. I mean, the big thing we've talked about him, even if he doesn't win them, he doesn't often allow the other player to win it clean. And that's the biggest thing you can do, especially with the way the Bandits play, is allowing the Bandits to get the correct personnel on the field, whether it's defense, offense, whatever they end up wanting to do. Usually it's defense. But I think that's huge, but this game, he definitely has the advantage, and it's something that could hopefully not matter because we don't want it to come down to overtime or one last possession. Just please just crush this team like you just did Albany and move on. But if it does come down to it, I think we have a lot of faith in Adler to get the job done in those crucial, critical faceoffs that do end up mattering toward the end of the game, and it's good to see that he has the advantage in this game. But like you said, as far as transition defense goes, Gilray and Reese are definitely their big guys. Gilray's been pretty solid at transition in general. I mean, you see those 10 goals, 17 assists. It's not a crazy number by any means, but he's definitely their go-to. If he gets a breakaway, he's going to take it, and he might score kind of guy. Other than that, they're not a huge, heavy transition team as far as truly being transition like a Calgary, which is a team that scares me quite a bit with their ridiculous transition ability. But they don't really have that other than Gilray. Outside of that, like you said, their defense has pieces that are really good, but as a collective unit, not the strongest.
Yeah, when you were talking about Adler, it'll be interesting because I think they did it in the Albany game towards when he was just winning every single faceoff. It'll be interesting to see if they put out another forward. I think it was Chase Frazier with Kyle Buchanan in the Albany game. If he's winning those clean, it might be towards the, like, if he goes against Tyler Halls instead of Joe Post, it might be more interesting. It might be more beneficial for the Buffalo Bandits to put out a second forward rather than just Buchanan out there, because if Adler wins it, he can get it over to Buchanan or say like Chase Frazier as well. Then you can get an odd man rush the other way, and that's how you can capitalize on those faceoffs, and that's how you can make faceoffs matter so much more than they do. And it'll be interesting to see if Johnny T kind of switches from his 3 defense and Buchanan when the faceoffs are out there. If he's winning them clean and consistently, like I said, that's something that I'll be paying attention to probably in the second half is when they'll change that up. But goalie, Rylan Hartley, I loved him last year just because of he's so unnatural in net. Like the way he wants the ball in his stick all the time. He's a weird dude. He just makes the weirdest saves, but it's so much fun to watch. And he's got a 78% save percentage, 11.62 goals against. He's 10-7 on the year. He can get hot or he can implode. And this is another game where we set against Doug Jamieson where you want to get to him early. If you put 3-4 goals on him in the first quarter, you're going to shake his confidence. Just come out and put the foot on the throat, like I said, and you can really shake him and make him get pulled. That's the best way you can do it because he's got a screw loose, Phil, and sometimes that benefits you, and sometimes it comes back to haunt you. Make it come back to haunt them.
Was it against Toronto that he got pulled and was like chirping on the bench?
Was it Halifax?
It was what?
Was it Halifax? I don't think it was Toronto. I think it was Halifax.
I would say it was one of the top teams in the East because it was a really big game for them. It might have been Halifax where he got pulled because he wasn't having a very good game. And he was just chirping the whole way off and almost got in a fight with their entire
Wasn't
bench.
It Halifax because Rochester was up by so much and Halifax just stormed back and ended up winning it and they pulled him?
It might have been.
I think that's what it was.
I don't remember. I just remember it was a big East game and he was not happy with what happened. I think we ended up posting that in our little side NLL Bandits chat because it was hilarious watching him go after everybody. So like you said, yeah, he's definitely a good goalie, can be hot. I mean, he's done very well against the Bandits twice now. Again, 12 and 13 goals, not terrible. I mean, looking back at the season now, I would absolutely take 12 and 13 goals with the way the Bandits finished their season, averaging, 9, 10, 11. So 12 and 13 sounds amazing if they can pull that off again. But like you said, if he gets hot and he has a really solid first half and gains that confidence, I think he can be scary because he is one of those stranger goalies. I think the young goalies, more than not, seem to be that kind of loose style now with Georgia's goalie as well. I think he ended up having that rough game against Halifax for the, do or die, play and you're in kind of game, he struggled a little bit. But in general, he had a really good season. He's another player for goalie-wise that just is all over the place, making those just crazy-looking saves. But Hartley's got the kick saves. He's diving all over the place. Like you said, he's very jumpy, bouncy. I don't know. He's a fun goalie to watch. But, yeah, I think he can implode kind of quickly. But if he gets hot early, I think that's where you're going to be scared, especially at a home game. I mean, if you put 1 or 2 in the net and get the crowd going and just shake him a little bit, I think you're going to have a much better game. But if he comes out of that first half only allowing 2, 3, 4 goals, I think his confidence will grow, and that's when it's going to be tough to get to him.
I did find it. They lost 17-7 versus Halifax. They were actually just down 9-6 entering the fourth quarter.
I thought it was close.
And then Hartley gave up 4 straight within like a 3-minute stretch. He got pulled when it was 13-6, and that's when he went over the bench and tried to fight guys. So, yeah, it was, like you said, it was that close game, and then they just scored 8 goals in the fourth quarter just to blow the top off. But, yeah, that's the game we were talking about. I thought it was Halifax. But, Phil, we went over the players. We went over the past 2 games. We went over pretty much everything you can towards this game. We can't go out there and play it, so there's not much else to talk about here, Phil. I have my score prediction. The streak ended last week. Can we start a new streak? What's your score prediction for the do or die round 1 of the quarterfinals of the Eastern playoffs? What's your prediction versus Rochester Saturday night in Bannerland?
I put all 4 games score predictions in my most recent playoff primer article, but for the Bandits, I had them winning 14-10.
We didn't do it.
I'm interested to hear yours, though. What are you going?
13-11.
A little closer.
I got it a little bit closer.
Yeah. I think I'm putting a little bit more into Rochester's just downfall at the end of the season and Buffalo riding in hot with confidence, playing at home. Please crush them. Just go out and end it. Just end it.
Yeah, I'm putting how close it's always been, and not happy about it.
That's fair.
Not happy about it. But, Phil, it's everybody's favorite time of the show. It's milestone time.
We got to get you a theme song for Milestones.
We do. It's milestone time. It's milestone time. Watch PK butcher all these things just like you did the theme song. Here we go. Steve Priolo is at 24 caused turnovers in the playoffs, which is good for 6th most in NLL history. He's 1 behind Dan McRae and Brett Medisk, Phil? Medisk, 4th place. He is 3 behind Chris Corbeil, 3rd place. Moving on to Dane Smith. He's currently tied with Jim Veltman for 64 assists in the playoffs, which is good for 9th place. He is 1 behind Josh Sanderson for 8th place. He is 4 behind, with 4, he will tie Jeff Shatler for 7th, and with 6, he will tie Sean Evans for 6th place. I think I said 6 for Shatler. It's 7th. I'm already butchering this. Another Dane Smith one, currently tied with Jeff Shatler with 105 career playoff points, which is good for 10th most in NL history. With 6 more, he will tie John Grant Jr. for 9th place, and with 9, he will tie Curtis Dixon for 8th place with 114, but remember, Curtis Dixon is playing, so we will know more. I think they play on Friday. So Matt Vince, he is at 23 saves away from 1,400 playoff career saves. He will be extending his own record. When Matt Vince plays on Saturday, it will be his 40th playoff game. He will also extend his NL history record with playoff games as well. Steve Priolo, 151 loose balls in the playoffs, which is good for 10th most in NL history. With 6, he will tie Dallas Eluk. With Eluk, Phil, I'm going to pronounce it Eluk. 9th place. Eliuk, there you go. 9 more, he will tie Steve Toll for 8th place. And 11 more, he will tie Kyle Rubish for 7th place. When Nick Weiss plays on Saturday, he will tie Pat McCready for 7th place in Bandits playoff history. In games played with 16, 3 more goals with Josh Byrne. He will tie Ryan Benesh for 6th in Bandits playoff history with 20. Chase Frazier and Chris Cloutier are both tied for 14th in Buffalo Bandits history with 12 goals. With 1, they will tie 4 guys here, Phil. Rich Kilgore, Roger Weiss, Bob Hamley, and Jonas Dilks for 10th place in Bandits playoff history. With 2, they will tie Troy Cordinley for 9th, and with 3, they will tie Kevin Dotsey for 8th. With 2 assists, Josh Byrne will pass Darius Kilgore for 4th in Buffalo Bandits playoff history with 33. Josh Byrne is also 6th most points in Bandits playoff history with 48. With 7, he will tie Darius Kilgore for 5th, and with 8, he will tie Mike Accursi with 4. Nick Weiss, 2 penalty minutes away from moving into 5th place in Buffalo Bandits history with 28. Dane Smith is 2 shots away from 200 for his playoff career. Dane Smith is 5 loose balls away from passing Kevin Brownell for 9th place in Bandits history. Nick Weiss is 9 loose balls away from passing Kevin Brownell with 9th in Bandits history. Both of them are right on the edge there. I would give the edge to Nick Weiss because he gets a few more loose balls. And last one, Nick Weiss is 2 caused turnovers away from passing Kevin Brownell for 2nd place in Buffalo Bandits history. Kevin Brownell can fall further and further down the leaderboard Saturday night in Banditland.
How'd you do?
I stumbled a lot more than I was anticipating, Phil. Playoff time, yeah, I got the playoff jitters.
I was literally about to say, you got the jitters, which is fair. It's a lot going on. See, the biggest thing to me, a lot of pressure on me right now is that Dane Smith can continue to push himself farther away from Jeff Teat in any way because Jeff Teat's not even in playoffs. So
yeah, suck it.
He has 0 career playoff points. So
he's not even teetering on the edge.
Heyo, he's teetering on the edge of a golf tee. Golf teetering.
I got it.
Because he's not in playoffs. That's
I got it, Phil. You might want to stop. Yeah.
He's still really good. He's really good at lacrosse.
Yeah, we get to make fun of him because he's that good.
Yeah, pretty much. He's scary, but luckily his team's terrible.
So that pretty much sums up the milestone segment. Finish off all these so I can add more to the list and just stumble even more. But if they make it to the semifinals, maybe I'll be a little bit more calm. Playoffs are out of the way. First round jitters out of the way. But PK's hot corner here, Phil. I'm going Bills route. And this is kind of sports related, and I haven't gone sports related in a while, so I figured I'd toss it out there. Now that the Bills stadium is all set, it's going to happen. They're going to start construction any day now. The first thing that Terry and Kim Pagula have to do is get new seats in KeyBank Center. They're gross. They're broken. They're out of date. They hurt my butt. Keister. Make them more comfy. Then you can focus on the rest. But make it so all of the places that the fans are the most, which is in their keister in the seats, are top notch. Make them want to stay in the seats. I guess maybe they would want to make them uncomfortable so they have to go pay money in the concession stands. Maybe that's their game plan. But they're just gross right now. They're old. They're what? The arena was built in 96. Doing quick math, that means it's 37. Did I do that? 37 years old. Those seats. How many keisters have been in those seats? That would be a weird mathematical thing between the concerts and the playoff games and everything. That's a lot of keisters in the seats. Make them comfier and nicer. I wanted them wider, but I don't think you can do that because you would make less seats in the stadium. But they made less seats at the new Bills stadium, so maybe they would still do that. I don't know. It's just beyond my pay grade. But just new seats, number one. The new scoreboard, bigger concourses, fresh paint. Well, I know you complain about the paint, like what's Green doing there, but seats, number one on my list. Number one.
And then can I get paint as number 2?
You can have paint as number 2. I mean, you could probably do same because paint's not as expensive as seats, but seats got to be number 1.
That's fair. I feel like, if you want players or if you want fans to go watch Devin Levi, I feel like he himself deserves better seats so people are comfortable watching a Hall of Fame incredible goalie perform on the ice.
I think you've called him Hall of Fame goalie before, Phil, so I don't even have to touch on that one.
No. I think it's just always going to be, every time I mention him from here on out, just Hall of Fame Levi. He'll get there. He's had what? Has he even had double-digit games in the NHL yet?
You said 6 games, I believe.
Yeah, it's. I feel like that's enough of a sample size to me to show that he's.
8. I think he went 6 and 2.
I thought it was 8.
That's
yeah.
Why 6. Yeah, I think it's 8.
Sub 10, but I've seen enough.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He'll be there. Yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer.
Easily. If I could bet on it right now and put a couple bucks down, the odds have to be astronomical for a player that hasn't hit 10 games yet. So, I mean, if
you should have put it in before he even started his career. That's when it would have been the best.
It's true. Or at least after the first game when we saw him and saw all of his incredible timeout quirks that he does. We've gotten way off track, though. But yeah, I mean, even new seats for Bandits fans to enjoy playoffs that we have now been to for 3 straight Eastern Division titles and NLL overall #1 seed. Like you said, 3 finished seasons, because even they were doing well in the broken season as well. But it would be nice to get a little bit more comfortable keister seats for the playoff runs that we get to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I got to spend more money to buy my playoff seats. I might as well get a comfortable seat.
Or at least instead of a towel, give us that seat cushion.
Oh, yeah, maybe I can use the towel as a seat cushion.
There you go.
We'll see. I'm going to be whipped in the face by Brooke and
I do have
Brooke's on my left, producer Pat's on my right, and whenever they get something with these giveaways, so I'm leaning more. This could be my hot take, Phil. I'm against giving fans stuff. Don't give them anything because they end up just whipping me in the face with it.
True. Okay, so you're probably not going to like my next one, but I thought it would be adorable, and you might actually lean toward this because there's less whipping room, and it's something you've been after for a very long time that I think you eventually got. But what do you think about a Bandits mini flag as a free giveaway? I want like a little Bandits flag that I can just do that with, just a little wave for a little Bandits flag. I think it'd be adorable. Like one of the ones on the, little wooden stick with a little square Bandits flag at the end.
I'm good with it, but they're going to whip me and then stab me with it.
That's fair. I mean, it sounds like you need better seatmates more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, one of them stands at least. One of them stands. Can you guess which one stands? Which one doesn't?
I mean, why? It's playoffs. We better all be standing.
Oh, if he's not, I'm going to stab him with my homemade flag that I'm going to bring. Don't check me, security. Phil, we're on a tangent here. Anything else you want to add to the show before we shut it down and have to wait like 36 hours until we go to Banditland?
I think it's coming up in a little bit, but I think something that I keep forgetting to mention to you that we should touch on ever so briefly. Rochester Americans down 2-0 in the series, came back to tie it. Now they are tied 2-2, headed into Game 5. Congrats to them on a humongous comeback. So good for them. We don't touch on them enough right now. I mean, we don't really touch on them in general too much, but right now they're in playoffs. They had a good comeback. They had a great game last game to tie up the series. Hopefully they can use that momentum, keep it going, and win the series, keep their playoff hopes alive. Something that just should be mildly talked about real quick because they're doing well. They're doing well. Big comeback. Congrats to them getting to Game 5 and taking it home.
Phil, we do have that BSC magic touch. You saw what happened to them last year when we started just lightly following them. Not much, but
right.
We got you.
We got them pretty far. Last year.
We did as much as we can. I mean, Like we said, 13 seconds with the Bills. We can only do so much. We don't play. Do something.
This is on you guys. We got you down to 13 seconds. What more do you want?
Yeah, what more could we do? Just don't kick it out of the end zone next time.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. Okay, that's enough touch. Okay, well, before we get murdered in Bandland. But yeah, on our next show, we got hopefully 5 more Bisons games to talk about. We got hopefully, fingers crossed, everything that the Bandits do defeat the Rochester Nighthawks on Saturday night. Come loud, come proud. Just root on these guys because I don't want to stop covering this team yet, Phil. I don't want to just go strictly Buffalo Bisons baseball all through the summer. I want to keep talking about this team through June and just slowly work towards our, off-season coverage of the team. But I don't want to start talking about that yet. I can wait a bit. I don't want to do my tuxedo's still at the dry cleaners, Phil. I'm not ready to have a BSC awards show yet. It's not time yet. So hopefully we talk about a victory. But yeah, come out loud, proud, stand up in your seats. But thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter, Buffalo Sports Go. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.